course, all the news yesterday, today, and tomorrow, no doubt, and the next day revolves around Artemis, 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 Artemis. Oh, and did I mention Artemis? By the time this airs, Artemis should have barely beaten the distance record set by Apollo 13, but the toilet is acting up again. I guess that's all we have to complain about. Meantime, Trump proposes the same huge budget cuts he did last year, but wants to increase Space Force budget by a huge amount. Black Sky was awarded a $99 million government contract. Somebody at fool.com says, why I am not, in fact, investing in the SpaceX IPO. We'll look into that. Interstellar Tech got $47.24 million from Japan's SBIR program. Voyager got a contract from Icarus Robotics. Roscosmos confirms ISS will definitely be deorbited by 2030. No fooling. We really mean it, folks, or at least our parts. So China's carrying on with their own moon landing plans, but their first commercial flight failed. All that. And our guest, Dr. Jason Held, is back with us. It's going to be a wild night. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do? Of course, we champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Now, our pitch events and our world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor-ready. A lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So if you just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button. A little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends. Now, speaking of friends, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, who just got back from painting decorative images in the catacombs, is here with me. Michael, come on in, man.
Hey, how's things?
Hey, I'm doing okay for a Monday.
For a Monday? Nope. I'm pretty happy. I'm Catholic, and my mom's really, really Catholic. So 20 hours of mass from last Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. I'm like, it's time to get back to work. So
what does that mean? You're all fixed up for like another year?
I'm good. I've got all the check boxes.
Okay.
I'm good for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I did not do any of those things. I had a moment of silent meditative reflection.
Good. Awesome. Also equally good.
Yep. It's like the song says, Jesus is just all right with me.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what I said.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, so yeah, I mean, I'm going through all the links, trying to find some interesting stuff, and all of it. Artemis.
Sure,
I'm going down days of stuff. I get a lot of my stuff from space today, and I had to be pretty choosy anymore because more and more of these sites I go to want you to subscribe before they'll let you in anymore.
Yeah,
Space news. At first, it was just space news, but now even Reuters is doing it. Come on, really?
Yeah.
Like they don't get enough money from the mainstream media who's been subscribing to them for 55 years.
Right.
No, they have to get a little piece from everybody who clicks in once in a while.
Yep.
AP's still good, but man, but some places like the Guardian, you really don't want to go too much. CNN, I don't go too much. It's but there's still good stuff out there, but it's becoming harder to find.
Sure.
And that you can get a good story, especially now. And this is it's not a huge money week. There's some money stuff going on, but
there's a couple pieces that are big.
Yeah, but Artemis is just like sucking the oxygen out of everything in the news cycle right now.
Yeah.
So not that I'm against Artemis, guys, they're doing great. There you go. And everybody's going. Some guy, again, one of these silly news sources, they said, well, Artemis just crushed Apollo 13's record. Crushed it. It's 4,000 miles.
Right. Good.
How
good.
big is the universe again?
Right. Crush.
How big is the universe again?
Right.
Okay. If you added 2 zeros, I might start to be a little impressed.
Right. Right. Crush is clickbait language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, we did, right? We are farther than we've ever been before. It happened just about 3 hours ago, if I got my date, time and date information right. But yeah, it's great. Jim Lovell got onto the conversation, like, hey, good job, nice job. So yeah, it's cool. I'm excited.
I guess another guy who was Capcom back then was Charlie Duke. He's still around. And so they've plugged him in.
Yeah. Beautiful.
For like the morning wake up call and stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I got 2 things. It's just no, you've done your thing. You talked about your thing. So yeah, you did your Catholic thing. So
yeah, I'm good.
That's all you got. I got 2 quick Artemis things just because I had to pick something.
Sure.
And so that where is it? That first one is simply, it will reach the far side of the moon in the next 24 hours. I expect to, because when the first guys did it, they came back and said, yes, there is a Santa Claus. And we're supposed to be, could speak for what. So I'm just kind of half waiting for those guys to come around the other side of the moon and say, yes, there was the Easter Bunny. I have 2 code words, so that would be fun.
I gotta give credit where it's due. Some of these photos are absolutely beautiful, and
yeah,
Christina Koch, like she is rocking it. Like she's getting some really like genuinely iconic photos. The blue marble photo that Reisman put together, like these are just. I watched both the Fox and the NBC press conference. I don't know, press conference is the wrong word. The gaggle that they had in space, which was 25 minutes on YouTube. It was great. Like they really are nailing their public relations component on this time, which they don't always do. So I think that's really nice.
Exactly. And again, the other one, the only other thing I've got is like that new toilet of theirs broke down again. Oh God, I guess the joke is going around. It says, we shouldn't have packed all that Chipotle into their food packs, and maybe that's the problem. But $22 million.
Yeah,
$22 million for a toilet, and it's crapping out.
Crapping out. If the worst thing we can say about this mission is making 12th grader joke, 12-year-old boy jokes about the toilet, I'm good with that.
I'm okay too. And apparently the world's oldest Microsoft Outlook user is up there, and he's having trouble connecting to it. He's got 2 accounts. 2 accounts.
Oh my God, good for him. Yeah.
I mean, I still have my old Earthlink account. I've had it for almost 30 years now. But it's basically use it for you guys and for junk. It's that's mostly what comes in there. I don't use it much. I use my other stuff all the time.
All right.
Well, let's get some real news. Let's get some actual news.
All right.
So if I can find my pointer, there you are. What else is going on? Oh, yes. God, yeah. Here we go. Ars Technica. Trump proposes once again a steep cut to NASA budget. The same steep cut, about the same, almost exactly as he did last year. And so you wonder whether he's going to get bypassed by Congress again and have the funding restored. And that's the opening salvo in a multi-month budget process.
Right.
And both houses of Congress have to pass their own appropriation bills anyway. So maybe it means nothing in the long run. We won't know until they actually vote on it and argue over it. But I thought the other thing that made it interesting is because after he proposes cutting NASA budget by $6 billion,
Mm-hmm.
he pitches a dramatic increase to the Space Force budget.
Yeah.
For the same year.
That's worth digging into a little bit, right? So Artemis is going to get more money, so glad about that. It's not nearly enough. Gotta wonder if, all right, so now the drama is over with Isaacman and Trump. How did that conversation go? Hey, buddy, I put you in this job. There were some complications, and I'm going to cut your budget by a quarter, by 25%, right? How did that conversation go?
Well, it's because Eisenhower probably looked at what happened last year and says, okay, Mr. President, we'll do our best. Good luck to you.
Right.
And fully expecting that, Ted Cruz will say, no, we're putting this back. We're putting that back.
Right.
But what he's really going to have a problem with, the budget request for Space Force went from $3.6 billion this last year to $19.1 billion. That's over a 30% increase.
Right. Yep.
Procurement funding. Just procurement funding.
Yep.
Okay. Well, how do you think that's going to go over?
So going back in time to 2018 or 19, probably 19, I'm in the chief scientists of who will become, but is not yet, the chief scientist of Space Force. I'm in Dr. Mosher's office, and I'm telling him, you know what? There is no Space Force. It's important to keep that in mind. There is no Space Force. So there's only the Air Force's Space Command at that point. And I'm like, there is going to be more money from the private sector than there is for the entire government budget for space. And he's like, no way. And then I proceed to send him the receipts. And I send the Space Capital's site, and I send reports to him. And the guy turned on a dime. He was pretty surprised. And when he was presented with new information, he changed immediately. So good on him. But now we're at the spot where I'm like, I wonder if the private markets can actually stay ahead of Space Force, right? We have been for 6 years in a row.
Yep.
Is the private market going to stay ahead of the government commitment to Space Force? I'm curious about that next year. Yeah.
Okay. Again, this is one of these things you have to throw it out there and let everybody see it, but we have no crystal ball with this. We can go because past efforts, as we know, is no guarantee of future results.
Well, yeah.
We say that all the time. We used to. We were putting out prospecti.
Yep.
Of course, you had to say that, and it's true here too.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to.
Do you know? So there's Cruz on the one side who is pushing the NASA budget and going to try and restore it because it's good for his state. Is there anybody who's got a vested interest to keep the Space Force budget going up? Because I don't know if they have a champion. Rogers.
That's a good question. I haven't heard of anyone either.
No.
That is, yeah.
I mean, they're moving parts of Space Force to Alabama, so the Alabama person's got to have some weight. But I don't know if there's a champion.
Space Force, so that's Space Command.
Yeah, right.
Out of Colorado.
Correction. Yep, that's right.
Completely different animal.
Yeah, I forgot that. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know who the champion is other than Trump himself. Obviously.
Well, yeah, and that's pretty good champion, but he needs help in Congress.
Yep, he does.
For that to come through.
Yep.
I'm totally, their original argument was if we build Space Force, we can lower the defense budget. That was an argument from more than 8 or 9 years ago, back during the Obama administration. They're like, oh, if we make Space Force, we can cut some of these redundancies and we'll have a smaller defense budget, as we've gone from 700 billion to 1.05 trillion. So that didn't happen.
That's all working out real well, isn't it? Oh my God. Well, we'll see where it goes. Sometimes I think that stuff's just put out there to troll people and, to get certain types all excited, and they're all like being in the chattering class and they're chattering while something else is going on behind the scenes we have no clue about. That's kind of my view of all this right now, because I don't know what else to say. It's just like I can only control what I do in my life, not what the rest of the world does, and I'm just trying to focus on that at this point.
Right on.
But here's something we can have some fun with for a minute. Some guy at Motley Fool wrote this interesting article saying why I am not investing in the SpaceX IPO. I don't care how much money you give me to do it, and this is great. He's got 5 reasons. And they're all actually kind of good. They're kind of interesting. He just puts it out there. And the first one, number 1, and we've talked about this, the valuation is ludicrous. They have yet to file a prospectus that opens the books to investors. It's a virtual lock that this IPO is going to be pricey. According to Reuters, SpaceX generated 15 to 16 billion in sales last year, leading to approximately 8 billion in profit. When you examine the sum of the parts, $1 trillion or more of their proposed 1.75 trillion valuation derives from SpaceX itself. This implies SpaceX is trading at triple-digit price-to-earnings ratio and well over 60 times trailing 12-month sales. Yeah.
I mean, those are not new numbers, but it's seriously, Motley Fool is the only org that I've seen that's like
how to help bring back the $1 slice. Suddenly,
conversations. I'm Motley Fool contributing stock.
Sorry, buddy.
What's going on?
He was Motley Fool popped an ad up.
Pop up. Okay, I get it. Yeah,
it was a podcast.
All right.
Yeah. No, Motley Fool is kind of the only org that I've seen that's consistently knocking this IPO.
Mm-hmm.
They did last weekend, they did it the week before. The pricing is real, but here's their counter. Here's other people's counter arguments. If you count this as a defense stock, a multiple of 5 or 6 is real. If you count it as it's opening a new economy and a new stage of the world, you can't put a price on it. So somewhere in the middle of that is true.
And that may be what he's depending on. You can't put a price on this. Look what I'm doing.
Right.
I did like this one. Elon Musk tends to overpromise and underdeliver, and he used Tesla as an example. I thought the reasonings were good. So that was one: overpromise and underdeliver. His leadership will be spread too thin because of all this. So he's going to have to find a great crew to do a lot of that busy work for him, because there's not enough of him to go around.
Okay, but again, there's another counter argument that says they're going to fold Tesla into this company next year.
Yeah.
So then he'd only have one company to deal with.
But how does that save him any time? How does that save him any time to focus? Right. You see, even if Tesla's folded into SpaceX, what difference does that make? You've just doubled your problems now. And so you're cut in half.
I mean, I'll always be shouting out to Gwen Shotwell. She's the reason SpaceX exists. Right. In my
Thank God for her. Yes.
Thank God for her.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming he's got competent leadership in the other companies. I don't know that. I don't follow it. I don't really care. But I assume he's got competent people in his other orgs as well. Okay. So
Meantime,
Hey, I want to
meantime
just do a quick.
that launch was set back a month. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Block 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Kind of angry about that.
And here we go again.
Let me do a quick shout out while we move to the next
Yes.
news. Thanks, y'all. We really appreciate y'all. Veronica, always terrific. Thank you so much, Morty. We got a new guy, Nick. Thanks a lot, Nick. Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
Yeah, of course, it's easy for something to go wrong with capital-intensive projects. Of course, number 5 is the historical headwinds are insurmountable, whatever that means. And so he's going through. He goes way back in history for stuff like that. But I thought they were interesting points to make. There will be counterpoints, but they're putting it out there.
Yeah,
and guys like us, we do it too.
That last piece about the historic headwinds, he's basically saying the world is in for a market correction and it's going to be a doozy. Again, that's not our thing. We're not trying to pull out any crystal balls, but that's Motley Fool's prediction.
Okay, a couple things with actual money. The Black Sky, they did this themselves. This is their own press release, but they were awarded a multi-year sole source $99 million U.S. government edict contract for advanced next generation capabilities, large aperture payload for Earth observation, space domain awareness, things of that nature. So that was, in case you don't know about Black Sky, they're a real-time space-based intelligence company. They deliver on-demand high-frequency imagery, analytics, and high-frequency monitoring of the world's most critical and strategic locations, economic assets, and events in the world. And so having all that, they must be getting pretty big, and getting a deal like that, it must be pretty good.
Yeah, they're a local Seattle group. Always try to promote them a little bit. They have a lot of heritage locally, and they've pulled in some pretty awesome people on their team. So it's kind of neat to see them growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will point out that we're going to talk a lot about space domain awareness later on with our guest this evening.
Major news. This is going to be fun. Same thing. A company called Interstellar Technologies got $47.25 million from Japan's SBIR program for their Zero launcher. This is the final phase, which includes a flight demo of the technology, and so they're a leading space infrastructure company, and their Zero vehicle successfully passed the stage gate review, moving to the final phase of the SBIR Phase 3 program. So good for them. The demand has grown in everywhere over the world, including Japan. They want to have their own launchers, and
they pulled in some money from Toyota, which as a lead investor, which I thought was cool. I don't know if anybody's tracking this, but the America's SBIR program looks like it is back on track and should be implemented in the next few days. So fingers crossed about that, because there's a lot of space companies that need that program to work. Right. So fingers crossed for everybody.
Okay, a couple quick things, and I guess we got to go. Voyager was awarded a contract with Icarus Robotics to test their free-flying robotic platform called Joyride aboard the ISS, no less. And so they're underscoring the continued commercial market demand for opportunities in low Earth orbit. This was an announcement by Voyager Technologies. They don't mention a number, so that's one of those things. The other thing I just wanted to throw out there really quickly, Roscosmos has officially announced that the ISS will be deorbited as planned in 2030. So if they're serious about it, everybody else should be serious about it too, because they're pretty firm.
Sean, can you just put that guy's face up just for?
Yeah.
He's got a very stereotypical Russian scowl. Like, we mean it this time.
Yes, we're going to do this. And we don't care what the rest of you do. Our Russian modules are coming down. What you do then? You have pieces sitting there that say America on them. Hey, no, we're taking ours out. We're done. We're building our own.
They have been saying that for at least 5 years that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And maybe longer than that. So, yeah. Good luck, Russia.
Yeah.
Don't.
Oh God. Oh geez. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's that. Also, that little weird comment we don't have to repeat, but but then Walt Anderson comes on here and says, NASA owes me a space station. So
right.
Maybe the pieces that are left, they can put them back together and say, "Here, Walt. Here, you keep that. If you can keep it flying, good on you." Okay, so we're gonna have some big news tonight about you heard it here first kind of stuff with our guest is my great and good friend Dr. Jason Held, who's the CEO of Sabre Astronautics. He's been around a long time. They participated in one of our big BPCs back in like 2012. That's where he and I met, and so we just saw each other again last year in Sydney. And had a really great time. So let's bring him in. There he is, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, fellas. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be seen. Okay, I know there's stuff.
Where we always check in. Where are you in the world right now?
Greetings from the luxurious Airbnb in Boulder, Colorado that I'm staying in. So,
okay.
So to orient you, we got mountains that way. There's no snow because it's too warm today, but lovely to be back.
Yeah, it'll be back. Springtime in the Rockies. I remember it well.
It's pretty great.
Yeah,
pretty great.
Okay, I know you've been doing a lot. I'd like to get a little catch up on what you guys have been working on, like the super secret eavesdropper or whatever it is you're making.
Secret eavesdropper. So, I mean, publicly in the news, we opened up a new laboratory. For those of you who haven't heard about us before, Sabre Astronautics, we're a space ops company. We fly satellites for a living. We do space domain awareness. We actually founded the Pacific Cell for SDA on behalf of one of the Space Command programs a couple of years back. And we just opened a new laboratory in space logistics out of the lab out in Sydney in Chippendale. It's pretty exciting. And we've also had some good news on the U.S. front for space domain awareness. We make the software that does space domain awareness work. That software is deployed to Space Guardians and all combat deltas. And we're announcing now that we've just produced and deployed a robotic space operator, called Windu. And Windu is being deployed on space cockpits down to all operators. What it's doing is it's able to troll through all the different things that are happening in space, identify the risky things so that the human operator can make decisions. So if you think about it, you got this massive growth in space objects, and heard you talking about SpaceX and the IPO and what's going on there. On the upside, we see everything that's happening there, and so, well, how do we take the process we've always had, which is a very human in the loop kind of a thing? Somebody with steely eyes looking at a dashboard is essentially what it is. So we roboticize that. Used a lot of AI tools to troll through sensor data and say what's really happening. And so now the operators get the feed for the actual alert events that they can make decisions from. So that's the announcement that's happening today. Windu has gotten deployed. That's big news.
Yeah. Jason, I need to go back a little bit because not everybody knows why SDA is a big deal. So give a little bit more background on that.
Okay, space domain awareness, one of those kind of like mealy mouth acronym terms, but the BUBBA version stems from historical. We've had military space for since the beginning of space.
Right.
It's 60 years now. But you used to call it, when I was an old Space Command dude myself, we used to call it space situational awareness. The idea is you send some telescopes and some radars looking up at the sky and seeing where things are at, seeing what's going on. Space domain awareness extends that and says, okay, what are they actually doing? And why are they doing it? Okay, and for the military and the civil is very, very different. Yeah, the tools are roughly the same, but the things you do with those tools are very different. So civil SSA is all about safety of flight. Are things going to collide with each other? It kind of leads towards space traffic management. So space traffic is kind of the future that we're really pushing towards. It's one of the reasons why we opened up that lab in Chippendale. Space domain awareness is more about, are they a threat? Are they a risk to us? All those satellites that you have from the U.S. arsenal, from the Chinese and the Russian arsenals that we talk about, what are they doing up there? Is they're doing kind of a chess game. They're maneuvering themselves into position to see if they could see each other. There's a lot of on-orbit espionage. When people talk about space as a warfighting domain, they talk about it like it's a new thing. But now the difference is the volume of space objects has gotten so high, it's really hard for human beings to just kind of troll through the way we've done it before.
Right. So that gives Windu context. So now give us a little bit more about Windu, and you say you've got it deployed into 2,000 terminals. What does that mean?
Well, what it's done is deployed into Space Force's ecosystem. So when you use the term deployment, if you're making space software for either for NASA or the DoD or some other government program, usually you get like all these SBIRs. Like a lot of the debate around SBIRs that you just mentioned is kind of fascinating, because what happens is, a company like mine, got 40 employees on 2 continents, right? So a company like mine will announce, hey, we just made a phase 1 or a phase. Usually go phase 1, which is 120,000, to kind of prove that the prototype works. Then you go to phase 2 to make a minimal viable product, and then you got to raise investment to deploy to deploy that product. Now that valley of death usually happens after that phase 2, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to convince the military that, okay, we've made this an invention on your dollar. Now you need to use it.
You should use it. Yeah.
But what a lot of companies don't realize, what a lot of founders and entrepreneurs don't realize when they do this for the first time, is the military's got hundreds of companies just like us, making tools and toys and techniques and making announcements and things like that. So what do? Most companies will raise VC money at 20, 30 million, 120 million, depending on where you're at and what you're trying to build. And that gets you through the valley of death to the point where the customer dollars comes in. In the middle of that is the act to deploy your software on a military server. Because no matter how good your tech is, if you don't deploy, you don't exist.
Right.
The operators literally cannot go to your website if they're on the high side. If they're in an air-gapped environment, they can't. Okay, great announcement, but you're not even there. And the whole ecosystem, the whole value chain around that centers around the act of deployment. And so that's a gate. After deployment, you have operational acceptance. Okay, so now deployment means you're on a military server. Then they start using it. It's kind of like you remember the TV show Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy goes, "Oh wow, that's the best meth since you got to try the meth, right?" So finally, after deployment, they could actually try it and see at that point, do they like it? At that point, your competitors are major primes, because those are the only ones that normally get up there.
Right, they're the only ones in the system.
They're the only ones in the system, except for us, because we deployed Space Cockpits. Space Cockpits got its own history from 2018. Sabre as a company, we pioneered a lot of the kind of like video game tech for space ops software, kind of like Ender's Game is kind of what I was going for. And the military saw that in 2017, and we were pitching for VC money, but we had a whole bunch of Space Force acquisition officers in the room, which is kind of cool. And we didn't get the VCs, but the acquisition people were like, that's the tech we want. We've been waiting for that all our lives. Can you can you do something with that? And so we had our phase 1, phase 2s, but our certificate to field is kind of what they call it. They say you deploy. We got that in 2019. We got it without a single penny of VC money.
Wow.
And we got it without being cuddled by a prime. And that's the hardest.
Wow. Yeah.
Actually. So once we had that, and Space Cockpit we had a Space Cockpit battle management system. We did a bit of a rebrand a couple of years ago because we started adding in all this operator tools, things like launch nominal tools, light curve analysis, all these things that space domain awareness operators, what they're doing is they're looking to see if here's my satellite. Yeah. They're looking to see if your satellite's changing its orientation based on the light curve. So you get all these kind of helper tools that we added in and bundled it together. So now an operator could sit down and click on a satellite and identify based on these tools what it's actually doing. Windu extends that into automation. So when we deployed that stuff, the operator's like, oh man, I've needed all this stuff in one package for years. This is the best thing. This is amazing. But we watched as space got busy over those years, and the operator started getting stretched is probably a better term, stressed. And you think, well, who are these operators? Well, they're typically 22 years old, 25-year-old as a senior operator. They got a bachelor's degree in arts history because they wanted to be fighter pilots. They've watched a lot of Tom Cruise movies. They ended up being a space operator instead. So okay, where is an appropriate use of AI? Because Sabre we're 18 years in business now, and we founded on the back of doing machine learning back in 2008. 2007 when we founded. Basically, my PhD was going to.
Right. Yeah. Those are your dissertation.
That was the whole history back in the day. Did machine learning PhD. So we said, okay, we're really good at knowing where machine learning AI is appropriate and when it needs a human operator in the loop. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you make a decision. It's got to be a smart decision. The value to that operator is using the machine learning to troll through the analysis that those operators need to do. So basically taking the labor-intensive part, packaging it up. And the last bit of that operational acceptance is all about trust. As you're using it, do they actually measure the accuracy of those tools? Is it actually solving problems for you? The answer was yes. So that very long-winded answer to what we're asking, a very simple question. What do you mean by deployment? Well, that's not what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, the way you describe what this stuff does, it's like you say, your satellite you have in your hand there. It's if it can tell whether it's tilted in its orientation or something like this. Now, is this just a passive program? You can just look at this. Can you do something about it if something's wrong, or you do have to hand that off to somebody else who then they do something?
In our own operators, so we have 2 mission control centers. We got the mission control center in Boulder, which is commercially leaning. We're looking to do more defense work with it. We also got the mission control center in Adelaide, which won the bid for the nation's mission control center at the space agencies. The space agency doesn't know us. We're kind of like a little Sabre Astro embassy within their headquarters. It's a lot of fun. But in our own ops centers, we can, for the satellites that we control, we call it the responsive space operations center. It's responsive because we have the information immediately in situ with the actual command and control. In military ops centers, they tend to separate them out. So the deltas that are commanding spacecraft are typically different from the ones that are managing space domain awareness.
This is what I was getting to. So you got one guy that can observe something, but he has to tell another guy who can do something about it.
But I think that's changing because what's happening is SBMS is being rolled out across the Space Force. Because we've been there for a couple of years now. We had our deployment, our CTF back in 2019. We've been watching it as operators use it as the traditional primes tend to give us a bit of pushback. The operator level is the most important. The operator level is what everybody listens to. And captains, lieutenants, we're passing this around like a joint. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of drug references on this. great and bad. I mean, both about guys. Seriously though, it's been really exciting to watch people actually using it. And the people who need it are people who are flying the spacecraft. So Delta 8 was the first one to give it operational acceptance. That was announced 2 years ago. And yeah, so they've been using it quite a bit. Now the other Deltas are being commanded to use it as well. So now they all have it.
Where is your core data coming from? You're tracking 50,000 objects. Where is that coming from? It's not, you don't have your own radar network.
No, I don't want my own radar. Why do I want that small?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. A lot of these companies that there's a lot of frenemies in the SDA community. A lot of companies that make software like us, and a lot of them that make hardware and radars and telescopes and things like that. And they all compete with each other. Sometimes they collaborate depending on what's going on. We never wanted to have our own sensors. We dipped our toe in it for like a contract once, and it's good. But I like the idea of Sabre being a neutral actor. We have a marketplace, the RSOC SDA marketplace. It is not the same thing as a data lake. All right, a lot of people get confused over that. And for those on the call that have never heard the term data lake, what's happened is there are a couple of companies that focus entirely on the data layer. They don't own sensors either. They pull sensor data in from the commercial sector. So the short answer to your question, there's a lot of commercial companies that do it. The military and space fence and all this stuff has been around for decades. On the military side, they'll pull data from their own sources, but they also augment from the commercial sector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears for a second. You talk about 40 people, 2 sites on 2 continents, which, by the way, very nice flex. I'm looking forward to being able to say that. How much is a contract like this worth? If you've gone this far without VC money, hats off to you, because that's a hard path to go.
It sounds impressive. 40 staff members, 2 continents. I got really lucky. I've got a director on each continent.
Yeah,
they manage the bit. I go back and forth. During the year.
You're home based there, though. That's where your wife and
my wife comes with me. We don't have kids, so it's really easy. That's what I'm saying. It's really she's in the pharmaceutical industry, and she's got a job that lets her travel. So she and I basically bounce back and forth every couple of months. I technically, resident in both countries. I pay taxes in both countries. So that's not an issue. And 40 employees sounds a lot, but it's for the space centers, it's not huge. And the bootstrapper story is very different, to answer your question, than a VC back. And the pressures are very different. There's plenty of pressure for me. Mm-hmm. Different pressure. I talked to a company that raised 120 million, and he had big bags under his eyes. Like he's got 100. I was like, dude, you got 120 million problems. But
you sold your soul for that one.
So at the time that everybody was raising for their telescope and radars, we kind of thought we could do the same. I didn't do it because I wanted to keep Sabre neutral in this space data market. And what 4 months ago, SpaceX announced that they're turning every one of their satellites into an SDA sensor. And I counted my lucky stars for that to see who would have guessed, as I wasn't looking in my own little crystal ball. I was like, where's the SDA market going? It's not in one company owning one sensor. It's going to be in whoever's going to own a lot of sensors, and it's going to be marketplaces. It's going to be kind of a commoditized kind of thing. I didn't want to play in that. That was the reason why we never tried to raise for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's shift it. Let's shift another gear, because you are based in Australia. I just saw you 6 months ago at IAC. We talked a lot about a lot of shit. Some of it we can talk about. Other shit we can't. But because we're friends, right? But the thing is, you do have, since you've done Wolfpack and all that stuff, you do have kind of your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the local entrepreneurial community in Australia. Could you give us a few words about what's going on there? What's changed? What's getting better? What's not?
Australia just got through a really rough year, is
Okay.
probably the best way to say it.
Right.
They had their big boost of funding after the space agency was founded, and that lasted a couple of years. And then a new government came into power and decided the space thing was the old government's play. They cut the funding significantly, and it was a normal, what we in the U.S. experience is a normal cycle. Australia experienced it for the very first time. And quite a number of space companies either had to find ways to tighten their belts, or some of them had to die. And one or two got lucky and got acquired. But that was the scene out there. It was there's still a lot of very kind of upset people out there over that. What we're seeing now is the very first kind of uptick back up the bottom of the slope just in the last I guess 8 months. The Australian military just announced a $500 million matching fund, dollar for dollar matching fund.
Okay.
For VC investment into defense and space. Okay, so if you're knowing your background as well, this is an opportunity for the investment community if they're looking at Australia. Also, what's happened is other countries around the region have picked up the ball and started building their own sovereign developments.
Yeah.
So India in particular, I had a great fireside chat out in India at the end of last year. The entrepreneurial community is full throttle supported by their government, and they're going to be a credible competitor. I mean, India is already a space player, major space player.
Yeah.
But the startup community there was always kind of nudged aside. It all went to Israel. Now they've changed their strategy, and it's having an immediate and positive effect on their ecosystem. In the Pacific, I would say every country I talk to in the Pacific is deeply upset with what's happening in the United States geopolitical environment. They're very upset with the Trump administration. The way this has propagated through is they don't want to buy products from American companies. So when they see a product from Sabre Astronautics, for example, they ask us, can we buy that product through, they're like, we love the product, we need it, can we buy it through the Australian stuff? So we look at, so the sales process has hit at the customer level. I don't want to say consumer because we all know that means something different, but at the customer level and the way these decisions happen. So that's the scene out there right now. It's interesting. It's exciting. It's not over yet.
Okay. All right. Well, just to say that though, I mean, my company Avialto is kind of the same way. We're based out of the UK, and so. But we were always based out of the UK, so we're a decade ahead of the curve, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good to be international. It's good to be international, but we're all space professionals, and the U.S. has 50% of the space industry.
Yeah,
right, by share. So nobody could ignore that. That's still even in countries which are becoming increasingly anti-American, and I'm an American citizen. I mean, that's the truth of it. But so when I talk to them, I have to kind of keep in mind their own kind of views in the lay of the land. Yeah.
We've been invited to set up a shop for Liftport in Melbourne for years. One of my employees from the earliest days, 2003 to 2005. He's now a professor in Melbourne, and he's like, come show up, we'll set you up and get started. So yeah, it's on my list to set up a shop out there.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned because we got some. I probably know that we probably have the same friend. I don't want to say on the air, but it's probably the same friend. Australia's always been top 10 in the world for space R&D. Dead last for commercialization. They don't know how to commercialize their own products. Pakistan I'm not even exaggerating. Pakistan sells more space products than the Australians do. Australia has always been the second largest importer of American defense and space tech goods in the world. It's $4 billion a year.
Jesus.
So so their whole ecosystem, their whole acquisition systems are designed around buying American products. So in the Pacific, Australia remains the only place that still wants American products and is willing to admit it. They all still want American products, but a lot of them, their career.
Well, here's the thing. I'll say this. I like the whole idea of this kind of decentralization anyway, just because, philosophically, that's kind of who I am. And so all these new sovereign efforts that are growing up all over the world, in Japan and ESA and India and all these other places are trying to find their own space capability. I like it happening. I want to see more of it. And I don't care what drives it. If there is a global pandemic of Trump derangement syndrome, and that's what's driving this, okay, I'm okay with that. Just as long as you're doing it, I think it's going to be very helpful for everyone, because that almost guarantees you that 10 years from now, when Trump is long gone and we're building a cislunar economy, there's going to be a lot more players out there wanting to play and are ready to play. That's what I'm looking toward.
Yeah.
I've always been a globalist. I wear that, happy to be a former U.S. Marine, not throwing my country under a bus, but I love that's the Star Trek vision of the future, right? It's a globalist version of getting out to space,
and that would work if the actual government itself is about maybe 90% smaller than it is now. I'd be really happy with that. But
to give you a couple of, like, Singapore just put $200 million down for their own space agency.
That
last November.
Huge.
Malaysia is thinking of doing the same. Indonesia, Southeast Asia is looking very interesting, and it's completely independent of what the Chinese are doing. It's completely independent, because you would think that the Chinese would be adding a lot of pressure on that
some influence.
It's very interesting to watch. The democratization of space is kind of happening. It's kind of happening.
Yay! It only took 25 years, but it was a good 25 years, right?
Sure.
Let's come back to Sabre for a bit. With 40 employees, and you're sitting side by side with the primes, some of the primes have got to be looking at you and thinking you're a target, right?
No, his eyes just flared up.
I didn't.
This is where I switched from T. Stronger.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Like, for real. There's no way you're going to bed at night thinking, oh, Lockheed's fine. We're buds. It's going to be great.
Look, dude, they fall into different camps. I have found that we've been getting pokes in the eye ever since. This is going to be true for any space company that makes it. Okay, any space company that makes is going to have this happen. We're a little bit different because we didn't have VC funding, which is a double-edged sword. We don't have the protection of VC provides.
Right.
VC has a legal arm and money that they know they're going to need to spend to protect you.
Oh, right. Hadn't thought about that.
You're going to have that. Yeah. So we didn't have any of that. We do have staff that have experienced fighting above their weight class before. Right. Both of the directors on either continent, the one in Australia and the one in the U.S., have fought primes in other sectors. Not when I say prime, like big business, and they've experienced being small business trying to do that. Not every engagement we have with a prime is a fight, which is the good news.
Good,
because they fall into a camp. Hey, do we want to acquire you? Do we want you as a tier 2 supplier, or do we want to poke you in the eye? The pokes in the eye we've had are significant. Now, when we were going for that mission control center in Australia, that was my first real fight, because it wasn't a lot of money, but everyone was going for it, because it's literally the mission control center at the National
Space.
It's
the beating heart of the whole system.
Yeah, it's really, everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. So that was a gem. I was getting calls from primes at 2 a.m. You're never going to make it, Jason. Just sell your business. Some of them, literally, like 2 of them. I take the calls too because I know it. You're right. I'm totally gonna die. You're right. I should probably give up now. You know,
Right. Yeah.
have fun with it. But when we won that bid, that was really rough for a lot of people. They called their ministers. We had an anti-saber campaign in the press that was promoted by a member of parliament who was on the payroll for one of the primes. It was rough. It was rough. But compared to when we got our like space cockpit SBMS deployed, there were legal challenges there. The legal challenges, you could fight that. That's something tangible you could fight. So we had experience doing that. So a lot of people think it costs a lot of money. It can cost a lot of money. Because we have experience, it didn't have to. This is kind of the answer. So the stuff you can't fight is the kind of relationships that your competitors, your larger competitors, will have. We've had large companies block us from funding by talking to their colonel or general buddy, and they say, "Oh, these guys, you don't want to." They'll make up stories or they'll exaggerate things because things always happen. But it's kind of like a gaslighting game. That's harder to fight. You just have to be consistent, patient. Military acquisitions people change out every 2 years. You can't block a company like ours forever. And the moment we got deployed, there was nothing they could do.
Right.
Because we had colonels say, "We're never going to use you on our ops floor ever. We heard about you guys. We're never going to use you guys." Okay, no problem. We made it free. Government purpose rights. Captains, lieutenants were passing it around like a joint, like I said before.
Right, yeah.
That's the reason why we did it.
And captains get promoted.
The colonel
Captains
and
get promoted.
But they get promoted. But also the military people. I mean, let's face it. They're not in a commercial fight. They don't care about it. They care about operational value.
Right.
So when all your operators are like, "Why are we using this piece of shit when we have this great tool?" I remember you're a former military guy. I was in Bosnia using this backup computer system as an artilleryman that was basically in the bin. We were faster using slide rules than this little computer. Because the company that got the contract, sometimes engineers make it, sometimes they mess it up.
Right.
Yep.
But I mean, that's so what are you going to use? We made the decision to use charts and darts. And that is the definition of a product which has disruptive value, real, no kidding, operational use. That's the type of behavior you're going to see. And the commanders, they're not really out to get you. They're not.
No,
they're out.
They want the next promotion and then the mission capabilities for their team. Yep.
100%. 100%. And that's so the story of the primes isn't all traumatic though. We've had some primes invite us on bids and we're a really, really good tier 2 supplier. We've got we're flying 18 tons of spacecraft right now out of the RSOC.
Yeah.
We're measuring the amount of space by the tonnage, so everyone's looking at it, it's like, oh, the angst that those companies that fought us before has mostly gone away over time.
Okay.
Because let's face it, it's just business. It's not personal. Usually not personal.
Speaking of that, we got about 2 minutes left. We want you to pull out your crystal ball and let us know what you think the world's going to look like in space with that 5 years from now and 25 years from now.
Okay, space logistics is the way. That's why we're going full throttle on that. 5 years from now, the competition of military satellites is going to be really, really hot. And that means that we're going to see a renaissance of capability away from things that look like cubes to things that can maneuver. Maneuvering leads towards the use of fuel, because every mission we're seeing in the future has got high fuel requirement, which means space logistics is 100% the way it needs to go. But that also includes on-orbit manufacturing, on-orbit tests that starts leading towards the next 10 years. This whole stuff with Artemis and the moon, we're looking at the fun stage. But if we do actually get that thing up and running, that's going to be a critical part of the future, because we're watching space objects from different nations. That dance that we're talking about, some of them are flying out to cislunar, get hidden away out of the range of radars, and then they're coming back in as uncorrelated tracks or UFOs if we want to be cheeky.
Right.
And so there's a real no kidding use case for the moon that even 10 years ago we didn't really have quite a strong.
I've been saying it for 15 years, just for the record.
Saying it for everybody else. But it's been. But now you must be watching this in practice, because okay, now it's real. Now what do we do in 25 years? I think the human occupation follows the logistics need. That's the kind of short end of the 2-minute statement.
Okay, there you go. And on that, Dr. Jason Held, my good friend, thank you for coming again. We'll try to make it less than a year next time. We'll get you back sooner. You're doing really great with Saber Astro. I'm so glad to see it, and best of luck to you and your company. And we'll see you again real soon.
Thanks, man.
So much.
Pleasure to talk to you guys again.
Yeah.
All right.
Stick around. Okay, so Thursday, our own Morty Freeman is back with us. He's going to talk about his continuing efforts to do his elevator competition and a bunch of other things that are on his mind, and all his signature projects. And as always, that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern. So be there and see Morty. And for Michael Lane and Sean Key, I remain Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the sky.